Alright, so here's the lab on spectral lines of hydrogen, motivation, and the theory of the experiment. Here, kind of around here, maybe around here, I actually did post something else about diffraction grating in an updated document, but since I'm back in my office, I don't have access to that just now. So in any case, this is the setup, and you will see that this one here would be the bulb with the gas in it that glows, and here's a meter stick where you're going to read off, where you're going to see the spectral lines on the right hand side and on the left hand side. And then this one here in this T setup is hopefully perfectly perpendicular to it, and then the diffraction grating is over here. This is where the eye goes respectively. I'll be showing that with the camera. Since I already did that, that's actually pretty good. Turns out I put actually the diffraction grating at the 3 centimeter mark so that it's just over the edge, and I could actually put the camera and the eye really close to it. So I changed that a little bit. That doesn't matter, that just changes the numbers a little bit in the calculations, but still it's all the same. All right, this is the theoretical analysis. So here with the Bohr formula, respectively the Balmer formula, you would have to compute what are the theoretical results for the wavelength as the electron is jumping from the 3rd to the 2nd orbit, or from the 6th to the 2nd orbit, and so on. If that stuff wouldn't be in my way here, I could point at the others. And that would then get the wavelengths. These are the wavelengths that you find in books, and these numbers that you come up with here should be pretty much the same. Maybe it's like going to be 656.2 when you compute that. So yeah, you would have to do that. This one is the calibration of the diffraction grating, and kind of here probably is where I put other stuff in. So this is what I'm going to do with the laser. Again, I already did that actually, so you can look at that and see which numbers I came up with. And then this one is actually the experiment. So hydrogen spectral lines. You're going to see that I measured the red, turquoise, and violet, and here the numbers that I measured are on a meter stick, which is measured from the very left. Okay, so that means, for example, I'm going to go back here. So from the very left here, I come up, for example, with 12 centimeters or 88 centimeters. But I would have to make sure that my meter stick is actually centered here at 50 centimeters. So my measurements would have to be subtracted. So 88 minus 50 would be 38. 50 minus 12 would be also 38. Take the average of those. So again, the measurements that I'm taking on a meter stick are actually relative to the 50 centimeter mark, which is in the middle. And then we come up here with the wavelength for these here, red, turquoise, and violet. Notice there was a second violet right here, this one right here, respectively here, but it's so faint and it's so far in the violet that the human eye usually cannot see it. And I didn't catch it on camera either. You have to do a really good photo of it with a camera that is actually sensitive in the close to the ultraviolet, so that I actually can pick it up. Right, so these would be here then the measurements, and you come up with an error here, and I can tell you that I did really good measurements. The error is quite small. In fact, it's kind of like a systematic error. Okay, these here spectral lines measurements for another element, we're not going to do that. The only thing I did is I probably post another table here for the elements that I looked at. I didn't take measurements, but a table for that. Hey, these are the colors that you see. All right, and that's actually it. No conclusion for this one here because, yeah, as I told you, I'm just going to skip all conclusions. There we go. Let's get to the experiment. Calibration first, then we're going to do the hydrogen lines, and then we're going to do the other elements. So this is the calibration for the diffraction grating, and look at this fancy setup. So here's the diffraction grating. It looks like an old slide with all these lines in there. I'm going to shine the laser through it onto the board. So there's the laser. And I'm going to show in just a moment here, I'm going to turn the camera around, how that looks on the board. And I hope that the camera will actually pick that up. So, and I cannot check. I'm just all by myself here. So here we go. I put it in the middle there, and of course I'm shaking because I'm holding the laser, but I just in such a way that it really goes to the edge, to the right and the left edge of the board. And I measured those distances to the left and the right and took an average of those, and I also did measure the distance. You can see the measuring tape on the floor here, right? And so that's actually the setup for calibrating the diffraction grating and figuring out the constant of the diffraction grating. Alright, this is the experimental setup for the hydrogen lines, and you can see these 2 meter sticks. They have to be quite exact at a T. The one in the back where I'm going to take the measurements has to be exactly at 50 centimeters, and then they have to be perpendicular to each other, and that was my phone. Oh well. In the front you see that diffraction grating, I put it at a distance of 97 centimeters, and of course the big thing that you see is the hydrogen lamp actually there, and the diffraction grating is there in order to produce the spectral lines. So you'd see also the chair right in front of it. That's where I'm going to put the tripod, and then we're going to try to look through the diffraction grating. So I'm going to look left first, and I think, oh, this is really pretty. This show up really pretty. You definitely see the red line, and I already took the measurements earlier by me looking through the diffraction grating like this. I don't know if you can see that, me doing this here. That's how I looked, and I looked right and left and took 6 measurements, 1 for each line, left and right. And so yeah, here you can see the red line, and I don't know if you actually can read the numbers here in the camera. You see what is called a turquoise or aquamarine, kind of bluish green line, and then I think you can actually definitely see the violet right next to it. Now on the right hand side the same thing appears, but unfortunately I think I have just so many reflections of, oh, there's the aquamarine line, reflections of the cabinets in the back. Oh yeah, actually that shows pretty good. There's the red line. I don't know if we can see the violet line. So as I said, I already took the measurements earlier, and they came out pretty good, I thought. Okay, so here I'm going to show you a number of different spectra. We're not going to take measurements on these. So here's the diffraction grating in front of the camera, and I think this should work. This is argon, by the way, and I think you can definitely see a very bright violet one, and then a number of other colors right next to it, and you see it especially on the left. That's kind of the way I have the camera tilted, and on the right as well. I'm going to turn the camera now. So you have to look left or right. If you look straight in the middle, you're not going to see anything there. You just see the light bulb, and the light is not diffracted. You have to look left and right. That's what diffraction is doing. Alright, it's going to turn this one off. By the way, I'm going to show you this alphabetically. I don't have the periodic table top of my head, so I start with argon and then go up in the alphabet. So this is helium. There we go, and here comes the diffraction grating, and if you hold it the wrong way, the lines go only one way, then you're not going to see anything. And so there's, wow, really kind of pretty spectrum there, left and right. And by the way, that turquoise line that you see on the very left, I think that's already the second order spectrum. And in fact, you do even see a purple line there. By the way, you also see all kinds of other rainbow lights. That's the ambient light here. Since I'm in this physics or biology lab, there's still some light coming in from the outside, and today is a relatively bright day. So, next one is going to be iode. As I said, I'm doing this alphabetically, so according to the German alphabet, iode is next. That would be iodine. And again, I should turn my diffraction grating, and there's quite a bit actually coming from that one. Alright. And they do get somewhat warm. And that's why I'm going to keep the hydrogen for last, almost. And of course you have already seen it. So this one here, next one is, wow, nice, isn't it? Neon. And there again, yeah, especially if you look at the second order spectrum on the very left here. Let me actually turn that. There we go. Then you especially see all those reds in there. And
strong yellow line as well as a turquoise line. And there's the first order spectrum, and then the first order spectrum on the right, and then there's the second order spectrum on the right. I don't know if, let's see if we can get the third order spectrum. So first on the left, second on the right, and oh yeah, there it is. There's the third order spectrum. This is great. I don't know, the equation could tell us if there's actually a fourth order spectrum. I kind of doubt it, because otherwise you would have to take the inverse sine or the inverse tangent, I think the inverse sine of something that is larger than 1, and that's impossible. So there's only like a first, second, third order spectrum. Okay, again, I had this actually on quite a while. So after neon in the alphabet comes, of course, Wasserstoff. Now here's Wasserstoff, and when you look at this, then you noticed, you have seen it already earlier. You see the bright red, the bright aquamarine, and you see the violet. And of course, German Wasserstoff is English hydrogen. For some reason, many of these actually have a relatively strong aquamarine line. All right, don't have that in too long because of the hydrogen having only one proton, so having the lightest nucleus, it actually takes on the highest temperature when you put it into this voltage source here. The last one is xenon. Xenon. There we go. And that doesn't look like much, so maybe kind of like a, not the greatest one as the last, right? These bluish lines there. By the way, I did spare mercury. I just didn't want to do that all by myself and then break the glass, and then with this mercury gas that's in there kind of have brain damage or something. So these 6 here will suffice.